Cubs 6-1 behind some really interesting bullpen decisions and a complete lack of offense. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. That's Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves. Follow him on social media at ShortstopBall. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Braves, wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Jake's had a lot of great content recently. He's going to have more the rest of this week, all throughout the rest of this month, and the rest of this year, because this man's a content machine. All right, Jake, Braves lose this one 6-1, and I want to change the format a little bit. We usually do one segment talking about the offense and one segment talking about the pitching. And instead, I want to talk about some of the good things that happen, and then after the break, talk about the bad. And I think for the good, I want to start with Spencer Strider, okay? 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks to 8 strikeouts, right? On its surface, it doesn't sound like it's a dominant start or even that it's a really good start. But when you look at what he was actually doing tonight, mixing his pitches really well, he was like 41% four-seam fastball. I believe it's one of the lowest percentages he's ever had in a game. 16 whiffs in this one. The induced vertical break on the four-seamer was back. It feels like this was really a step in the right direction for Strider, because not only was he getting pretty good results, 2 runs over 6 innings, but he also was getting like everything that created those results was good.
Yeah, definitely seemed like a positive start in the end for Spencer Strider. Rough beginning to it, loading the bases, but he did work out of that, just giving up the 1 run in the first inning. And it did seem and feel like he got better as the game went on. Like he started to figure some things out as the game went on, which is highly encouraging. And Mark Bowman, actually, of MLB.com, pointed this out, the fact that he had I think it was the 3rd or 4th inning where he was given a bunch of hits on the fastballs, and the next 2 innings, or maybe it was the 4th and 5th innings, he really kind of went away from the fastball and started going to his secondary stuff. And then that last inning, he came back and used the fastball. So that's that little in-game adjustment there for Spencer Strider that, look, I've said this after every start. I'm hopeful that he can get back to 97, 98, 99. Yeah. But if he can't, this is more of the thing that he's going to have to do. He's going to have to make adjustments. He can't just rely on, I have this super awesome fastball that nobody can touch. I have this super awesome slider that nobody can touch. You don't necessarily have that right now. I mean, the slider was back to that tonight and can be that, but it's got to be a little bit different for Spencer Strider, and he's going to have to adjust to the way that hitters are attacking him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something interesting too. And then Joe was talking about this when I was listening on the radio earlier in the game. As he was going throughout, it felt like more in the second half of the start that Strider was on the attack, whereas early on it felt like he was being attacked and he was getting that confidence back. So this is a huge start for Strider. I mean, you get the whiffs like that, 16 whiffs. We haven't seen that from him in a while. A CSW over 30% is great to see. I know you mentioned the four-seam induced vertical break was up to averaging 17, maxed out at 20. The slider, 9 whiffs on 14 swings, starting to mix in that curveball a little bit, kind of what I was talking about in that 4th and 5th inning, starting to throw in that curveball, got 4 whiffs on 8 swings against it. And I think this is just what Strider's going to have to do until, hopefully that fastball velocity comes back. And even when it does come back, it's going to benefit him to be able to mix in some of these other pitches here or there. I also thought the four-seam fastball command was a little bit better at times. It felt like it was either on the edges or it was right down the middle a lot of times. He was still missing over the middle of the plate too much, but I felt like there were more pitches, again, in the second half of the start, especially where he was starting to paint the corners. There was one in particular, I think it was the 5th inning. He threw a dot on the inside corner to a righty, right on the line of the box on the screen. CB Buckner behind the plate tonight, so you get what you get. He calls it a ball. Very next pitch, Strider moves it over like half an inch, and he calls it a strike. And that to me was, one, just funny because it's CB Buckner, but two, also it showed me a little bit that Strider felt a little better with his command of that fastball, that he said, okay, that's not a strike. I'm going to move it over just an inch and I'm going to get the strike call this time. So I thought that was very impressive for Strider. Overall, I thought it was, definitely a step forward in the right direction. You look at his last 3 starts now. I mean, then the last one, he only gave 3 earned, but you watch that start. It did not look like Spencer Strider, did not look particularly great, but the results for his last 3 starts now have been, pretty good. So again, encouraging. I don't know if he can get 2 days of extra rest between every start, for the rest of his career, but that seems to be helping a little bit down the stretch here. And as I've said, I feel like you just need to give him that time to kind of work through this and figure things out. And I feel like he will, and it might take a complete offseason for him to get completely there. But loved what I saw from him. Coming back out for that 6th inning, I was almost of the thought, okay, he's got through 5. He go out feeling on a high note there. I know Snicker doesn't want to go to that bullpen. We'll get to that later. But you send him back out there for the 6th, and he gives up the base runner, but gets the pick off and gets out of that inning. So I thought that was huge for him too. You see the big smile with that clean-shaven face in the dugout. So great night all around for Spencer Strider.
Honestly, it's one of the first times I've seen him smile like that after starting a while. And that's just nice to see. It does feel like he's probably never going to, have a mustache ever again, right? He's just going to go clean shaven until he starts to struggle again. And then he's going to grow it back, just trying to do things differently. Baseball players are superstitious. That's how this works. Another guy that I kind of want to, talk about, somebody who may be the most overqualified number 7 hitter in baseball, Ronald Acuna Jr. He goes 2 for 3 tonight. He scores a run, but I kind of noticed during the game, I went back and pulled in the month of September, the actual stats versus the expected stats. He's been a little bit unlucky. And then also in this game specifically, he puts 3 balls into play, 102.5 for 2 of them, and 113.3 for the third. It's the 11th hardest hit ball of the season for Atlanta. And when I look at the swings, when I see the exit velocities and everything, he looks like he's the same Ronald Acuna Jr. that we've seen. How much of you think this little really noticeable and visible cold streak that he had was just maybe some bad luck, maybe some poor swing decisions versus a legitimate and serious enough slump to drop him down to 6 and 7 in the order?
Look, I'm going to be honest. There's never a reason to drop Ronald to 7th, 6th, and 7th in the order, in my opinion. I don't care what he's going through. You know what he's capable of. It is ridiculous, Lindsay, that the first 2 innings of this game, we never saw Ronald Acuna Jr. get in a bat. Yeah. You should never be into the 3rd inning of a game and your best player is not getting in at bat. I went on a whole rant on the podcast the other day. I'm not going to do it again, but
I heard it. Yeah, it was good.
It's completely maddening and frustrating. And it has been a lot of bad luck. It's also been, he's not good right now. And I understand that, but I mean, he's still, he's still one of your best players.
He's your most talented player in your entire lineup.
Without a doubt. And I mentioned the 4-seam fastball is something he has been struggling with. So it was good to see him. That 113.3 he had was on a first pitch fastball at 94. Now it was down. He's been struggling more on the ones up in the zone. But that was certainly good to see, him to get that going. I mentioned we didn't see him in the first 2 innings. He leads off the 3rd inning. Hey, baby, he likes leading off. We should try that again. And he leads off the inning with a double. Now that was on a sweeper.
Yeah. I was about to say, Cade Horton throws him 3 fastballs the entire game across 3 at-bats. I'm like, 2 at-bats, because Ronald bat in the 3rd and the 5th. I'm like, what are you doing, Cade Horton? You're throwing him 3 fastballs the entire time when that's what he can't hit right now?
Yeah. It's just, and again, I want to be clear. Acuna hasn't been good. And any normal player in that slump, you want to move him down to 4th, 5th in the order. Just feels like he's being punished, putting him 7th. Quite honestly, when your season is done, and we'll get to the bullpen. I guess I said I wasn't going to go on a rant, but here I am. We're going to get to the bullpen here in a second too. And you're clearly not managing the bullpen to win games. So you're going to manage the lineup to try to win games by putting Acuna down in the order because he's not swinging the bat well right now. Just, it doesn't all add up, but great to see him getting some hard contact, getting some good results. While we're on the good segment though, I want to mention Michael Harris too, because those 2 hitting back-to-back in the order might be 2 of the most unluckiest players right now. I mean, Michael Harris had a 98.8, a 105.7, a 97.2. He reaches on an error on a ball that he absolutely crushes. and it doesn't get a hit for it. Dansby robs him of a hit on a line out. It's just, he's been a bit unlucky here too. He's been hitting some balls a lot harder in the past, week or so. So those two guys, they start getting those results again. You feel pretty good about them going forward.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of, I think the biggest observation that I've had on this Ronald being bumped down in the lineup thing is the fact that you saw so many other guys be cold for so long and not get moved down nearly as fast as Ronald got dropped down to the bottom third of the order. And to your point, didn't even come up until the third inning. All right, that was some of the good stuff. Let's talk about some of the bad. Like Atlanta didn't draw a walk tonight. Like, Atlanta only had 4 hits tonight. A defensive error. We'll do all of that next right here on the Braves Postcast. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's sometimes the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes the fun out of it, and that's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app makes it super simple. One of my favorite things is I can see the exact view from my seat before buying. I know that I have a good seat at a good price because fees are included, so you know your total up front. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or what they're worth, right? They may not be counting all the investments or 401ks, or if they have, the value of the property minus the mortgage and all that stuff. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone, because Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you because Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. All right, Jake, a couple not great things to talk about in this one. I think the biggest question that I have, and you alluded to this a second ago, is with not everybody in your bullpen available, right? You use some guys the last couple of days. Pierce Johnson's pitched 2 of the last 3 days. Iglesias pitched 10 pitches. Kinley threw yesterday. Dylan Dodd threw 58 on Sunday. He probably can't pitch till like Thursday. But going Dylan Lee to Alexis Diaz in a 1-run game, the decision doesn't make a lot of sense unless it's, to your point earlier, just let's throw this guy into a situation to see how he can do because we want to see if he can play for us in 2026. There's no other reason to make that decision over somebody else in the pen, right? Daisy Hernandez was down there. Dane Dunning was down there. Not that I want Dane Dunning to come in and do that, but you had other options. Why go to Alexis Diaz there?
Yeah, I don't know. To be quite honest with you, I mean, it doesn't. Like, Alexis Diaz is getting dropped for a reason, and it's big time stuff, but he doesn't know where it's going. And who you could do that with? You could do that with Roldy Munoz. I mean, you got plenty of guys.
Daisy Hernandez was in the pen. He's also got big time stuff. It doesn't know where it's going.
And so you have guys who are part of your future, because Alexis Diaz, he's not part of the future here. You have guys in your system right now that are potentially part of your future that you could be giving those innings to. I think that's my biggest frustration here. It's not so much that they went to Alexis Diaz, it's that Alexis Diaz is on the roster over some other young guys who, granted, they haven't pitched well either. Hayden Harris didn't look all that dominant. Roldy didn't look all that dominant either. But I'd rather see them. If you're going to be throwing games away, I'd rather at least see those young guys, get the opportunities to see what they can do. And I think that's just my most frustrating part about it. And I understand there's not a lot of options. You did throw Dylan Lee, like trying to give the offense maybe one more inning, and you said, okay, I can't go to Pierce Johnson, can't go to Iggy or anybody else right now. Who all do you really trust out there outside of those guys?
Kinley.
So I mean, yeah, Kinley. So we'll go to one of my lower leverage guys in a one-run game where we're losing. And that's basically what it comes down to. But my biggest frustration is, why is Alexis Diaz there and not one of your younger arms that you could be getting another look at in a close game?
Yeah, as a guy who had minor league options, they absolutely could have just, when he reported, they could have sent him to Gwinnett and let somebody else stay up. And just odd situation there. And then, too, rather than doing that and then going Connor Siebold for multiple, I either go Connor Siebold multiple or just let a guy like Dane Dunning come in, pitch 3 innings, and finish the game out and save Alexis Diaz for, I don't know, maybe a chance, maybe give Drake Baldwin a chance to meet him first, like understand what he throws and everything before you ask him to catch each other. Just kind of an odd situation there. And then the offense, it feels like, with the Tim Hires kind of approach in the second half of the season that we've seen a little bit, right? They're trying to work counts a little more. They're trying to draw walks and string together hits and all of that. And you can believe or not believe the success of that when it comes to, better pitchers and all of that stuff. They didn't draw a walk tonight. And I think we touched on this a little bit earlier. They were just really aggressive at the plate. And I don't know if this is this because they saw Cade Horton last week and they thought, hey, we know what he's going to do. We can hit him this time when we didn't hit him last time? Or is this just, at a certain point, you got to get down to the very end of the season, and you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and just swing the bat and see what happens. I mean,
now in their defense, 9 hard hit balls off of Cade Horton. 2 of them go for hits. One of them was the error of Michael Harris. 7 of those balls had good launch angles between 2 and 26 degrees. I mean, those are well hit baseballs, and only 2 of them went for hits. And nobody wants to hear about the expected numbers and all that, but that's just a fact. I mean, more often than not, you're going to get more than 2 hits out of that. And so a bit of bad luck too. They were crushing some balls against Cade Horton tonight and just, did not get the results, which is maddening because the Braves are like basically trying to hand Cade Horton the NL Rookie of the Year here. And it doesn't help that Drake Baldwin goes 0 for 3 against them either. So I think that was my biggest frustration, other than the other one that I said before this. So this is my second biggest, I guess, is that not only did you get dominated tonight, your bats, and you had some bad luck, but it was against the guy who was competing against your guy for a very important award for the future of this team. So, a lot of bad happening all around here.
Yeah. Kind of last thing I want to get to before we get out of here is Nacho Alvarez. We see him make a defensive error at third base, initially charged to Michael Harris. I got mad on Michael's behalf. They changed it from a throwing error to a fielding error there. And it was something where the throw was coming in to his body from center field, and he just kind of like looks away. He goes and he looks at the runner, takes his eye off the ball, bobbles it, run scores. It ends up being a 3-run single. And then we also see him go 0 for 3 at the plate. Those strikeouts, but 0 for 3 at the plate. And I know he's been better in the second half, and he's been better a little bit recently, but we've seen multiple defensive lapses recently. We see, nights like tonight. I'm starting to question whether or not there is a major league role for Nacho Alvarez next season at this rate, or if this is something where you're going to have to find a different option to be your utility guy, and he's going to have to go back to Gwinnett to hopefully keep developing both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, for me, he's a super utility player. I don't see an everyday player right now in Nacho Alvarez. It's just, one, not enough power, offensive production there. We've been waiting on that power for 3 years now, and it's never really come. It's the only thing that's really kind of held him back as a hitter at the minor league level. He is still really young. He's 22. He has minor league options left. So I think right now, I would say going into next year, I'm finding a good super utility player for the bench at the major league level, and I'm putting Nacho back down at AAA to continue to work on things. Because while I think he'd be fine as a backup and a utility player on the bench, he's not somebody that I really trust to come in and fill in full time if Riley gets hurt or Ozzie gets hurt.
Yeah, true. All right. So again, Braves lose this one 6-1 to the Cubs. Tomorrow's matchup, another night game. There's not a getaway day game here. Chris Sale gets to start for Atlanta. We do not have a Cubs starter as of now. I'm sure they'll announce it in their post-game media availability, but we will be back to break down that game as well here on the Postcast. We are really grateful to every single one of you who showed up tonight and is here for this. We are not quitting until the season is over. Thank you to all of you who are also here with us, going through this together at the same time. Do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a sucker for words of affirmation. Some kind words in there would be great. I'll make sure Jake passes them along. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit the notification bell so you know when we drop Postcast, when Jake drops Locked On Braves, but also when they go out on Locked On Sports Atlanta and talk about the Falcons, about the Hawks, about everybody else. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Lindsay Crosby. This has been the Braves Postcast.